Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another amazing podcast episode where we have a beautiful guest, Shayne Mackey, where she is going to be speaking with us today about authentic confidence, getting our branding together in our business and recognizing that a brand is probably not what you think it is in this day and time. So, Shayne, welcome to our podcast.
Oh, Breye'l, thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here and really looking forward to this conversation. It's definitely a topic I love to talk about.
Yes, I'm definitely excited to have you here. So let's jump right in.
Sounds good.
So, I, of course, know, especially from our pre-conversations, that
hmm
you've launched major brands. You're working with a major brand right now, right? You just were saying how like a little hectic it is. And
Yes.
so, with you seeing these major brands, and now
hmm
you also help entrepreneurs
hmm
through Bespoke Creative, what is the biggest difference between branding for a Fortune 500 company product versus a personal brand?
So we're going to take budget out of the equation,
Okay.
right? Because that's the biggest barrier to entry that everybody thinks that they have is that they don't have the money to actually do branding correctly. But I think one of the things that small entrepreneurial brands, small businesses, founder-led brands really struggle with a lot of the time is this notion of slowing down and thinking through the foundation of their business.
Yeah.
A lot of times as a brand strategist, people will come to me with this notion that they need a logo, a website, and a social media handle, and then they can go and just do great things. And everybody has great ideas, and everybody has value, and every business, regardless of how crowded your marketplace is, there is a place for you. But I think the biggest thing that small businesses want to rush to market. A lot of times they're bootstrapping. Again, it gets back to money. A lot of times it gets back to budget. It gets back to the fact that they're bootstrapping a business. They're doing it without with any funding or any financing, and so they want to do it quick, fast, and cheap. And we always talk about that triangle. There's the money, there's the speed, and there's the quality.
Yeah.
And we always tell clients you can only have two, right? So a lot of times what ends up happening, because if you want to do it cheap and you want to do it fast,
Yeah.
you're going to sacrifice the quality.
Yeah.
And so when somebody comes to me and says, I need a logo, I need a website, I need I need social media, I ask them four questions, which are who are you?
Yeah.
What do you do? Why does it matter? And what's in it for me? And that fourth question is really interesting because we are all confronted, and I use that word very, very seriously. We are all confronted by probably over 5,000 brand messages a day. From
Yeah.
the minute you wake up and open your eyes and you look at your phone, to going into the bathroom, to going into the kitchen, to getting in your car, to wherever you go. And and so the one question that we all ask each other all the time, it's very subconscious, is what's in it for me? What value are you going to provide for me? And a lot of times people have great ideas and they want to launch them and they want to get them out there, but they don't think about pouring that firm foundation and building that architecture so that your brand and your company and your product and your service are going to last a long time. And I encourage everybody to start thinking about their business as a legacy brand from the very beginning,
Yeah.
right? Don't think about it as a flash in a pan. Don't throw spaghetti against a wall and see, well, maybe this will work and maybe it won't. The statistics are scary of most small businesses. The percentage of those that last 5 years is very, very, very small. And I think of those that make it those 5 years, it's only like 3% that are actually profitable.
Yeah.
And so if you pour that foundation early and you start to, I'm sorry, my dog is barking in the background. If you are able to really build it right from the beginning,
Yeah.
you're going to stand the test of time far, far better.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And I know that when people start off in business, sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it's
Mhm.
scary because like you said, they want the speed. They
Right,
want to send it to market. They want to just get the money. But
right.
the quality is so important. And
Mhm.
so you say, especially through your branding class, which has been so amazing, you say that brands need to be quote unquote living and
Yes.
breathing.
Yes.
Can you talk about what that means for
Sure.
someone who's building that personal brand around transformation work, like something like coaching? What would that
Mhm.
look like?
So, and you keep bringing we're going to talk about personal brands too at one point because I want to talk about what the right playbook is if you're
Mhm.
going to go social first.
Okay.
Um, but when you talk about a brand being a living, breathing thing, and that it truly is, and branding, right? The word brand gets bandied about now so much, right? Oh, you have to have a brand, my personal brand, a brand, a brand. I have to live my brand. I have to be the brand. I have to own the brand. But what is a brand? A
Yes.
brand is a living, breathing thing, right? It is, and it grows over time. And so as you have that idea and as you are trying to build something to launch, you're in that gestation period. It's like giving birth to a child. And just like a person, you start at infancy at day one when you launch and you rise through that time. Your brand is going to go through life cycles. It's going to change, it's going to mature, it's going to grow over time. And you have to be able to think about it that way because who you are on day one is not going to be who you are on day 90. And it's certainly not going to be who you are on day 365. And
Mm.
so you need to understand and understand what you're doing from a lot of different aspects, but
Hmm.
you also need to understand the marketplace that you're in so
Yeah.
that you know how to make sure you found your white space and how to live in that space. I encourage everybody, you need to have a vision statement that should be big and audacious and should never be attainable. You should have a mission statement, which is really what you get up and go to work to do every day. It is the value or the purpose or the thing you're trying to achieve day in and day out.
Yeah.
But the third piece of this kind of big foundation that you pour is positioning yourself.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't know what positioning is, and I think this is what separates the big brands from the smaller brands because the big when we're about to launch a product on a really big level, we start 3 years early, right? Most of the time. So we'll start 36 months out to start to do market research. We'll start to test names. We'll start to look at positioning statements. We'll start to look at all of the different pieces of this to build out a brand, right? And you have countless people, and most of the time with the big guys, you've got millions of dollars to do it. But we go through this very, very rigorous process to get us to day one, to day 90, to day 180, to day 365 and beyond.
Mhm.
We do a lot of forecasting. We do a lot of, we do a lot of market research, a lot of testing for our messaging and for our product and for all of our creative and all those sorts of things.
Yeah.
Um, you're nobody's gonna and you don't have to take 6 months, you don't have to take 36 months to do it, you don't even have to take 6 months to do it, but if you take 6 8 weeks and spend the time and really think about these things,
Yeah.
that's where it gets important. And positioning is critical because it allows you to put yourself in the marketplace where you want to be.
Yeah.
And you do that by analyzing the market you're in, right? So you need to look at your competition. You need to see who's out there locally, regionally, nationally. You need to see what they're saying. You need to see how they sound. You need to see what they look like. You need to know what their tone is. And, we've got these great AI tools that can help you do this research a lot faster than we used to have.
Yeah.
But but if you don't take the time to position yourself in the market will do it for you, and 99% of the time they're going to get it wrong.
Yeah.
And then you find yourself digging out of a hole that you didn't want to be in because you didn't take the time to say, here's who I am, right? It goes back to these four questions. Here's who I am. Here's what I do. Here's the value I bring or why it matters. And here's what's in it for you. Here's what you're going to get out of this transaction, relationship, whatever. And
Mm.
so you have to look at your position that way. You look at your competition and the competitive marketplace and you segment it out. And then you also look at your audience, right? And you start to segment your audience out. And what that helps you do is find that white space,
Yeah.
right? Because again, I don't care if you are in the most competitive market in the world, skincare, fashion, cars, whatever. there is a place for you. I want to say that again. There is a place for everybody, and everybody has value, and everybody has the opportunity to serve and grow and prosper in the place they're meant to be. And so, if you take the time and do that as a coach, if you take the time and find those people that you really have a heart to serve and that you're really called to serve, even if you think it's too detailed and it's too niched, it's probably not,
Mm.
because you don't need the entire pie, right? You need a slice of the pie in
Yeah.
that market. And that's what you have to think about. And so that's what's so important about looking at your market. Don't throw spaghetti against a wall. Take the time and find that white space, because if you know what your audience wants and needs, and you know what your competition is saying,
Mm.
you know how to make sure you're saying something different, right?
Mm.
Because the critical piece of this is differentiation.
Yeah.
You don't want to be part of the sea of sameness. I did an exercise with a creative director friend of mine about a year ago, and we took 10 Instagram feeds in one category and we cut the tops off and we put them on a wall, and they all looked exactly the same. So, how do you pick if
Mm.
everybody looks, sounds, acts, says the same thing? There is no differentiation in that, right? And so that's what you really need to take a look at, is how you can make yourself different in a market where, again, you have value and you are unique and your gifting and your talent is different than everybody else on this planet. And so you can bring something different, and you have to be brave and bold enough,
Oh, yeah.
and give yourself as a friend of mine at dinner said the other night, give yourself a personal board of directors that can help you, because sometimes we get blind to ourselves, help you find that white space and help you find that voice and help you find those words that allows you to stand and shine your light exactly the way you are supposed to. That is what will make you successful as a small business owner, or if you have a service, if you're a service provider, especially in this market now.
Yes. Oh, one thing that I heard you say right there is like you said it, but you didn't directly say it, but I know now
Uh-huh.
you're going to say it, is that a brand is basically not a trend follower. That just because
No.
we see everybody else
Mm-mm.
in a phase of a day in the life with me, or let me show you what's in my purse, that you're saying that's not a brand.
No, that's not a brand. That is marketing, and that is a tactic, and a brand is the system you build. A brand is the system you build that builds trust over time, right? A
Mm.
brand is, again, it's a living, breathing thing. It's who you are, what you do, why it matters. It's how you show up, it's how you speak, it's how you look, it's how you think. Your brand should touch every single thing you do, from the signature line in your email to your what you look like on your business cards, to your presentations, if you have customer service, how they engage with your clients, to your websites, to your social media. It's that system you build. It is a person. So how do you think about how you build trust with the people in your life? Your brand needs to engage the same way, believe it
Yeah.
or not. And marketing tactics, right? Social media is a tactic. Digital banners is a tactic. Out of home video is a tactic. Being on YouTube is a tactic. A podcast is a tactic. And then when you get into, and you're starting to touch a little bit on the personal branding level. Um, so they are very, very different things.
Mhm.
And I want to go there, because if you are a coach, if you are an attorney, if you're an accountant, if you're a strategist, if you're any kind of consultant, if you're any kind of service provider that is providing any kind of professional service, you don't need to show anybody what's in your bag. You don't need to show anybody what you had for brunch on the weekend with your girlfriends. You don't need to show your kids. What you should, and that is kind of that, from a personal branding perspective, or I'd love to evolve that to be almost like a social first perspective.
Mm.
You You need to show your thought leadership. You
Yeah.
need to show the value in what you do. You need to answer the what's in it for me question. If I am going to transactionally pay you for a service, if I'm going to pay you to coach me in something, I want to hear your thinking. I want to hear about how you coach people. I want to hear
Mhm.
your thoughts on those topics. I want to hear success stories of others that you have coached in those areas.
Yeah.
What you do in your personal life means nothing to me in that sense. And I think what's happened in is we social media took off and we got into this influencer in society and this influencer community in the teens. Really great, really successful. Big brands use influencers too, but it's one small tactical piece of a
Mhm.
larger strategy. Because again, even if you are an influencer brand, if you are doing, you know, if you are being paid to promote a product, right? If you are in direct selling or multi-level marketing, if you are doing collaborations with brands, then it's all about you. And that's the influencer model that you should be following and go at it wholeheartedly. If your lifestyle is selling product, then that is what you should be doing.
Mhm.
But there's another, I like to call it an expert model. There's another model that you can show up on social,
Yeah.
but instead of doing what the influencers are doing,
Yeah.
talk about your business,
Yeah.
talk about your thought leadership. Go out there and talk about what it is you do. If you're in finance, give financial tips. Talk about those things. Talk about success stories with clients. If you coach in whatever way you're coaching, talk about those things
Yeah.
because that's authentic and it's honest and it's true. And that builds trust with people because now they're saying, okay, I can trust you with this thing in my hands, this work problem I have, or this, social thing I'm dealing with, or this financial piece. Because, especially those that are dealing with financial, talk about money,
Yeah.
right? Because that's what you want them to engage in you with. They
Yeah.
need to know they can trust you in that. And so I think that's much, much more important. Um, and it allows you to stay on social. But I'm also going to say to you, everybody goes to social because they think it's fast, it's cheap, and it can be free.
Yeah.
However, fish where the fish are. And part of your positioning and Breyel, as you get farther into the course, you're going to get into a module about launching a product that where you start to look at what that launch strategy looks like.
Yeah.
But you may not catch all the fish you need on Instagram, right?
Right.
You may not find because if you're giving, especially a higher ticket offer, a lot of times you're not going to get a lot of those people off of social media. It's one channel, but you need to think beyond that. So, another piece of research I would do within your category, right? So, once you have yourself positioned, you know who you're talking to, you know where your white space is, figure out where those people are.
Yeah.
Where do they live? Where do they consume media? Where do they go? How are they showing up? That you can make sure that you're getting to the people and the clients you want and need in the places where they already live
Yeah.
instead of trying to catch them on social. I do a lot of work in pharmaceuticals. We don't do we on the consumer side, if we're speaking to like a consumer audience, we're on social media. Talking to doctors, we're not on Instagram and Facebook a lot of the time with most brands because that's not where they live,
Yeah.
right? Now they are consumers and they may be doing that in their personal life, but there are better channels that you can plug into that will get you to better places. And
Mhm.
in order to make money, a lot of the times you have to spend money, and nobody wants to spend money on marketing. But I will say there are some ways. Pinterest, amazing platform.
Yeah.
Reddit is having an absolutely huge moment. My coach is telling me I must get on TikTok. I don't believe her, but she's challenging me to put my content on TikTok because there seems to be an audience there.
Yeah.
And so it's not just about Instagram, it's not just about Facebook. It's
Yeah.
it's about looking at this omni-channel idea. It's about looking at LinkedIn. It's about looking at other communities where your people might be living and thriving and connecting in a way that you can make better connections faster. And
Yes.
the one thing I will say is the reason why branding and strategic, thoughtful branding is so important is that the best organic growth comes not from testimonials, but from word of mouth referrals.
Mhm.
And word of mouth referrals are going to get you so much farther down that funnel than trying to get them in the funnel and down through your emails and into your thing and down to your owned land and land them on your owned content. That could take you 12 to 15 different, pieces of information. Whereas a word of mouth referral might get you there in one or two conversations.
Yeah.
And so it's really important to remember that, because if you can make that connection with your clients, they can tell two friends and two friends and two friends. I was reading this article about a used car salesman of all things who sold 14,000 cars in his career. And he was so successful within the dealership he worked in that they had to almost create this little mini business for him because he was turning over so many people. And he had one of the most amazing philosophies I've ever heard. And it has stuck with me ever since I read it months ago. And that is, he believes, and I agree with him, he believes that everybody has 250 people that within a lifetime, not necessarily right at that moment, but have 250 people within a lifetime that they engage with. And
Hmm.
so how you treat and how you build relationship and trust with every single customer makes or breaks the opportunity to potentially have 250 leads from that one person.
Mhm.
So if you think about that and you think about how important it is to build relationship and build trust, all of a sudden it changes how you look at every client. It changes how you look at every opportunity. It changes how you look at every interaction and every touch point. Because right now, when we're all on overload, every single interaction matters.
Yeah.
And you have to show up, and you have to show up well, and you and correct and buttoned up and polished and articulate right away, because nobody has the mental capacity for a whole lot anymore.
Yeah. This already so good. Okay. A few things before a couple
Yes.
of other questions that I have. Number one, you just gave, of course, I already had the permission from you, but you just gave the audience permission to pivot.
Yes.
And I think that is what is important because I found the same pivot within myself. This was like 2023. And I was telling an accountability partner that I've been working with for a while, I just have to get off Instagram. I have to get off Instagram. And it was because I was having the feeling that it was make I myself was making me play small because I knew and I could see the people who I want to work with, the growth that I want within myself, the positioning that I want to take on that I know is higher. They're not on Instagram like that, but Instagram has a funny way of giving you that dopamine fix. So
Oh,
you think you're creating great content because you're getting 150 likes,
1,000%.
no conversion.
So, and let's talk about vanity metrics for a second.
Mm,
And this is where Meta makes all of their money, because they get you hooked on the vanity metrics, the likes, the follows, the shares. I don't care if you have 1 million followers and you've only converted 5 people, your social strategy isn't successful, right?
mm,
Because you think, oh my God, I've got all these follows, I've got all these likes, I've got all these whatevers. Great. I actually posted in my stories. A friend of mine posted a thing that said, "Can you imagine? Think about what social media is doing to our kids, right?
yeah,
Think about this for a second. A teenage girl gets 15 likes on a post she puts up on whatever, right? Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, whatever. 15 likes and is upset about it. Can you imagine if that same that same teenager had gotten 15 people to say to them to their face, I like what you're wearing today, or whatever, whatever, whatever. If 15 people showed up with you in one day and gave you a compliment,
You
which
would
is
feel
basically
so good.
you'd be walking on air. But now, right? I don't talk to 15 people. I don't get 15 compliments a day. I'm lucky if I get one, right? But think about that and think about how they've generated this hamster wheel of vanity metrics,
Yeah.
right? So, and they're constantly moving the goalpost, which is making everybody insane because they change the algorithm all the time. So you're constantly chasing the wrong things.
Yeah.
Because remember, you have owned content and you have borrowed content.
Hmm.
Your own content is your podcast, your email list, and your website, right? Those things that you can own and you can control at all times. You are the purveyor of all of that content. You know when it goes out, you know how it goes out, you know all of those things. And that's when we always talk about the funnel, we always want to pull them down to our owned content. You
Yeah.
want them always to land on your own content. And then you pray that they convert,
Right.
right? 10 years ago, all we had were websites, and they were so much cooler then. But but social media is not owned content. You may think because you're churning out and churning out and churning out and churning out that you own that content, but once it goes out into the meta ether, it's not yours anymore to do with as you choose.
Mm.
And it's one of the things that happens is everybody gets bored with their brand, right? So they change it up and they change it up and they change it up. What they tend to forget is consistency is king,
Yeah.
right? Consistency, 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 and how you look and what you say. We always say, when we're teaching sales forces, you tell them what you told them, and then you tell them again, right? And you have to remember when you put yourself out there and you put all your stuff out there in social media, not everybody sees it all the time.
Right.
And what your friend may have seen 7 days ago, you may not see till today. And somebody else may see it 6 months from now. I had 2 or 3 faceless websites I was doing in 2024. I'm still getting likes on pages that I haven't touched in a year and a half. I'm still getting likes. My Bespoke Creative LLC social media page, like I haven't touched in 6 weeks. I don't think I've posted anything since August because I know I can't run in that hamster wheel in my own personal stuff for Bespoke and the Brand Atelier, which is why I'm launching a podcast because that's where I want to. As you can tell, I'm much more a long form talker. But don't get hung up on the vanity metrics. If you're going to go social first,
Yeah.
don't get hung up on the vanity metrics. You need to think about who's converting, right? Are they getting into your DMs? Are you having those conversations? Are you converting to sales? There are people that have 300 followers. If 200 of them convert, that's success,
Yeah.
right? That's success. And so we need to look at very strategically think about what makes the most sense and what's really converting, right? Because it all should ladder back to ROI,
Yeah.
right? Everything you do should make you money at
Yeah.
some point. It may not happen overnight. Because remember, you're going to go out there day one and nothing may happen.
Yeah.
Nothing may happen for 90 days. Nothing may happen for 6 months, but show up consistently.
Yeah.
Say the same things. I talk about in the course, so you haven't gotten there yet either, but I talk about messaging pillars.
Yeah.
And you pick 3 to 5 messaging pillars and you continue to talk about the same things over and over and over again because again, it used to back in the dinosaur days when I started in marketing in 94, it was 3 to 5 touch points to get somebody to engage with you. Now it's literally 12 to 15, if not more. So you have to remember that repetition, 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 consistency is king. You're going to hate your brand in a year. You're going to hate it. I worked on a brand for 12 years at one point and the colors were red and orange and I would go on press for every press check when we still did that back in the day and I would walk in and I'd be like, oh my god, it's another day of ketchup and mustard because that's what it felt like, but it didn't matter because that's what they knew. When you go out and you shop, look at everything differently. Think about what attracts you to whatever you're buying, right?
Mhm.
Think about grocery stores, right? Everything is supposed to pop up a shelf. It shelf position matters. They negotiate shelf position at Target, at Walmart, at every grocery store.
Yeah.
All of that stuff matters. You walk into, Sephora or Ulta or Bath and Body Works and you're assaulted visually, right? But things will stand out for you.
Yeah.
And start to look at that and ask yourself why, right? Because if you start to think of yourself as your own client and you start to do that work, you'll start to figure out what sparks for you so you can start to think
Mhm.
about what sparks for your consumer. And again, do your own market research.
Yeah.
Use your clients, use your friends, use focus groups, use groups you can. Build a private group on Facebook just to do market research. Use these tools, use AI, use these tools so that you can really figure out where to put yourself
Yeah.
that's going to set yourself up for success. Don't worry about the vanity metrics. It shouldn't matter. It does to everybody, but it shouldn't matter. Um, and because Instagram, not everything's going to sell on Instagram. Even though everybody and their brother promises you for $5,000, if you just do this, I'll make you $1 million in a year. Doesn't happen. I got taken for 18 grand a couple years ago trying to do these faceless pages.
Yeah.
Doesn't work. So,
This is so good. I want to circle back around into the concept of trust, right?
yes.
Because one thing we've talked about before is that for coaches in a realm just like myself, like I see myself building trust off of my frameworks, my methodologies,
Mhm.
right? But what advice would you give to another coach who isn't sure if their framework or their methodology is like good enough to really build trust, or like if they don't see their framework as a good positioning or to position them as a premium brand? Like, how would you help them work around that?
So, you know, you're dancing on a couple things because you're talking about trust, but you're also talking a little bit about imposter syndrome too.
Okay.
And we all get it, and we all have it, and we all think our work is not good enough until it is. And I think again, um, you have to pressure test some things.
Mm,
You have to do the work. There is no, I am now fully convinced there's no such thing as a passive income at all. You always have to do the work. Yes, you may be able to automate some of it, but you're always going to have to do the work, and you're always going to have to test it. And the course you're taking, the course you have, I've already rewritten. Um, and and I'm not even through the first cohort. But to your point, when I launched the brand, the idea came to me last spring. I started writing content to take people through and to teach people how to build a brand with a strong foundation with trust and clarity and all of these things. And I gave it away. The first cohort I did for free, to get people in, to get them engaged, to not only walk them through the process, but also to give me
yeah.
critique and feedback to say, is this landing? Is this hitting? Does this make sense? And I got halfway through and was going to edit a video to put up on the course. And I thought, I hate this. This doesn't make sense. And I just missed a massive amount of content that these folks need to know. And so now I'm teaching it live. And that's the other thing you can do, is not record everything. Like if you're a coach and you're doing an online course, you can teach it live the first cohort so that you can kind of learn as you go.
Yeah.
Now, it and I will say, because I am what I now like to call classically trained, because again, I've been doing this since the Stone Ages. Um, in the big brands, you don't go out and see. You don't, we may do some A/B testing, but we've done so much testing before anything goes out that everything's pretty well tight and locked and ready to go. But I think, but much like tech does, you have to do some beta testing. You
Mhm.
have to you have to get it in front of some people, and you have to be willing to put in some sweat equity and not get paid right up front.
Yeah.
And I think that helps. But again, I will say, and the other thing is that will help to position you too,
Yep.
right? It goes back to all of that positioning work, and it goes back to that kind of trust. So if you get that social proof, if you get that little bit of market research, put in a little, sweat equity in it, then you're going to know where you belong. And so that's what I encourage people to do, right? Is to build that foundation, and then You can, with a course, build it a little bit. And again, and my coaches, I'm like, this makes me insane. Like it needs to be perfect. And they're like, yeah, but no. And I'm like, yeah, but yes. Because that's how I was trained. You know, you
Yeah.
can't go out, I mean, we are, I have a big launch with one of my clients on Monday, and the CEO came down with changes 3 days ago, and we had everything approved and everything had to be changed, and we're all sweating buckets. But it'll go out and it'll go out right on Monday as it's supposed to. And so, but I think we everybody does a lot of soft launches now. I think the market is much more forgiving of those.
Yeah.
I think they're important because if you look at one of the big brands that failed miserably, if you look at Jaguar and the relaunch they did last year, oh my goodness.
Hmm.
How in the world do you miss your market that badly and completely rebuild a campaign that doesn't even have a car in it? And then and change the logo for a heritage brand that had 100 years of history and an unbelievable cult following, and you can blow that up in one ad.
Yeah.
So, um, you have to trust yourself.
Yeah.
We all have imposter syndrome, but you have to get it in front of people in some way in order to test. You have to test it. You have to test it with either a cohort that you do um, for free, and it's hard and it can be frustrating, but it's invaluable feedback,
Yeah.
so that as you start to launch it and you put a dollar amount to it and you get it out there, then it's more, excuse me, it's
Mhm.
more then you're viable and you feel very confident about what you're delivering.
Yes. Oh, that was so good. That actually brings me to our final question as we wrap
Yes.
up this podcast. Because goodness sake, I could listen to you talk for years. I cannot wait until that podcast drop. It's going to be like my holy grail. Okay.
Oh, thank you so much.
What role and the importance would you say that confidence plays in how entrepreneurs do show up with that branding and with that positioning? Like, how important is that confidence within themselves personally before they ever even really apply it to the professional aspect of it?
It's confidence is important. And I'm going to say two things. One, if you do the work, if you do all this background work, if you do pour the foundation, if you know that you know that you know that you're positioned right and your message is correct, and you do all of this work, then you're automatically going to have confidence, right? Because you've built something with a, again, firm foundation. So
Yeah.
you've not thrown spaghetti against a wall. A lot of people want to like launch and go like this, right? And go, "Yeah, look through my hands." If you do the work and you build it correctly, you have all the confidence in the world because you can stand behind what you've built,
Yes.
right? And so that's one level of this. Do the work. Again, you don't need to take 36 months. You don't even need to take 6 months. You can take 6 weeks. I know everybody is afraid that they're gonna get caught in inertia and then they're not gonna do it. One step at a time,
Yeah.
right? Create a checklist. I've got them. I've got a whole, I've got a course, I've got checklists, I've got all kinds of things. But create that checklist, and that way your product, your service, your offer is ready to go.
Yes.
Okay. The other thing I'm going to say when it comes to your personal confidence, once you've sewn it all up, you've done the research, you've launched, you've got your first cohort, whatever, fake it till you make it. Fake it till you make it. Seriously, act as if, even if it's not yet,
Yes.
right? Because the confidence comes over time.
Yeah.
And it depends on where you are in your career. At 20 something, you're not going to have the same confidence that I do at 50 something, because you haven't been in the trenches as long as I have, right? When I work with amazing younger colleagues who will panic over things, I'm like, oh, this is awful. Like, and a lot of times you have to go, okay, this is uncomfortable in the moment and it's scary, but it's all going to work out. And the truth of the matter is, it always works out,
Yes.
sometimes differently than you expect,
Mhm.
but fake it till you make it.
Yes.
Act as if it is, even if it's not yet. And I promise you,
Yes.
your confidence muscles will grow over time to the
Mhm.
point where at some point you'll be like, oh, I got this.
Yeah.
But that just takes experience and time and failure. And I've got to tell you, failure Sometimes I learn more from the failure. Everybody does. You
Yeah.
learn more from the failures than you do from the successes because you ride high on the successes. With the failures, you'll go back and you'll rehash them a little bit and go, okay, what didn't we do here? You'll do the postmortems. What happened here? What didn't I do right here? What didn't I do right here? Whereas with the successes, you're like, woohoo, I nailed it, and you just keep going.
Yeah.
Well, there's still things to be learned in the success too. So don't be afraid to fail because I think that's where a lot of the confidence piece comes to is like, oh my God, what if I fail? Yes, but what if you fly? And guess what? Every failure leads you farther down the path to success,
Yes.
right? Thomas Edison talked about it all the time when he was creating the light bulb. He failed like 1,000 times and then it worked.
Yep.
And that's how this works for all of us. And so be kind to yourself in the process. Be scared and do it scared and fake it till you make it. Because
Yes.
the confidence muscle will grow over time.
Yes. Even for me, again, just being a couple of modules into your course,
Hmm.
my confidence muscle has grown because,
Hmm.
again, you've made it very clear how important it is to
Hmm.
take that pause and rebuild that foundation really quick. It makes me think about, as you were speaking, you know how like we'll see home developments in neighborhoods, right?
Hmm.
You may have a person who just builds like one home, and that's cool. But the people who can build multiple homes in a neighborhood, I mean, like lay out 50 to 75 homes in like 6 months, those people took the time to lay that foundation of the first home the right way. And that's why now they can do six foundations at one time, six window sets at one time, and
Hmm.
capitalize more and more. 9 times out of 10, they couldn't do that on their first home build. They probably didn't know how to talk to investors and developers, but they
Right.
took the time.
But think about the strategic planning that went into that even before they dug the hole for the first foundation, right? All 75 houses in that development were planned out. The
Yep.
entire, the map was planned on multiple levels, right? And
Yep.
and my having a family in real estate and having built homes, um, all the testing that has to happen and all the conversations that happen even before you break ground. And again,
Yep.
breaking ground is like a launch. And so yes, they can build 75 houses at once because they planned beforehand. The architectural plans were done, the land grading was done, all of those things were done, and then they can phase every single section of that and put up 5, 6 houses at once and get it done quickly because they had a plan. And remember, strategy is just a really sexy word for a plan. That's all
Yeah.
it is, right? Your strategy is your plan, your tactics are your execution.
Yeah.
And that's the thing to remember. A lot of people put together a list of tactics, list of things to do and think that's a strategy.
Hmm.
That's not it. You have to plan with the end in mind. What is your end goal? And then build the plan to get there behind it.
Yeah. Let the people know where they can find your workshop.
So I have I've started a platform called the Brand Atelier. Right now you can find me on the brandatelier.show.com and it has a link or will have a link to the page with the workshop. The course is closed for now. I'll be opening again in January
Hmm.
for the next cohort that will launch in the first quarter. I'd love to have anybody in it that would love to join.
Yes.
And I will be launching the Brand Atelier podcast here shortly. If I can get the margin and the time to actually do my own thing. And but this has been such a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Yes, and thank you so much for coming on to the podcast. We truly appreciate your wisdom. I'll drop your links down below so this way
Great.
we know exactly where to find you. And I am so gracious for all of your wisdom, all of your understanding, and your knowledge. And I'm excited for us to continue to work together.
I hope so. I look forward to that as well. Thank you so much.
Yes, you're very welcome. Until next time, we'll see you guys later.
Have a great day.